Welcome to the Silhouettes of Success podcast with your host, successful entrepreneur, broker, and business mentor, Amber Weitzer. Because success comes in all shapes, sizes, and styles, the Silhouettes of Success podcast is shining the light on industrious women with a collection of curated conversations of intentional inspiration designed to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, feed your soul, and gift you with actionable insights directly from inspirational, everyday women who've shown tenacity, grit, and grace, having taken on the challenges in their lives and business and won. Remarkable, down-to-earth, and relatable, Amber and her guests will share with you uplifting and extraordinary real-life success stories, motivational ideas that just might help spark something within you. With the deepest desire to serve you, help you grow so you can begin to shine the light that will illuminate your very own silhouette of success. So, let's get to it.
Hello, and welcome to the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success. Our VIP featured guest is a seasoned fundraising and development professional, currently a director of development for a nonprofit in Fort Worth, Texas. She's a graduate of University of Oklahoma, majoring in communication with a minor in business. She thrives in donor cultivation and retention, marketing, media, fundraising, program support, major gift giving, community engagement, and networking. She radiates the purest, highest, and brightest light, bursting of positive energy. And I'll tell you, when she's in an action mode, you better keep up or get out of the way, because I know I have witnessed on many occasions. She's an avid waterfowl hunter and enjoys spending time in nature with her 10-year-old rescued red lab, Chance. So please help me welcome Katie Purcell. Hey, Katie, how are you?
Good morning, Amber, and thank you so much for having me on here today.
Yes, it's a treat. I'll tell you what. So we're just going to kick it off and have you share a little bit about the shaping of your silhouette of success story with the audience. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yes, ma'am. Well, it all really started. I was an avid cellist. I played the cello for maybe about 18 years and softball as well. When I got to a higher caliber, I needed to pick one or the other because there were enough hours in the day to practice both. And I actually chose softball. So I went to college, played softball there, and really the sports industry, my father being a coach, my younger brother also being an athlete, really stuck with me. And I ended up working for the Texas Rangers for 3 years and kind of dabbled in some commercial real estate as a research analyst. And then went to the Dallas Stars for 2 years as their executive director of hockey operations. We unfortunately had a death in our family, and that kind of really led me to sit back and ask myself, what makes you want to get up in the morning? And the answer to that question for me was helping others. I was giving the contract to athletes that were, making millions for themselves. And my thought process is, how do I make millions for those that can't even speak for themselves? And that's when I hopped into the nonprofit industry about, I would say, I guess it's about 8 years ago. And that is what led me to I hopped straight into the director of development position. And so that's where we're at today at the Ladder Alliance in Fort Worth.
I'll tell you what, for our audience, I would say I know Katie. Of course, I've worked with her at the nonprofit and gotten to know and just admire, respect, and adore. But putting those other words in front of adore, taking away the cute factor, because the respect I have for you. But I say full disclosure, and I say I know you, but in what you just shared, I knew none of that. And it does not surprise me that you just, wow, the depth of you. We are not even going to be able to scrape the surface getting to know you today, but I'm excited to have you here. So it's so cool when we are able to hear from our silhouettes on their background and what led them. You were seeking what gets you out of bed in the morning. I mean, that's just so profound. That's deep.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes some of my parents have a lot of high school friends, and they're really close with them. And I've gotten a lot of compliments, being 33 years old and already, a director for so many years. Everybody's like, God, I feel like you've done it all. And I'm like, well, not yet. But they were like, I mean, you live every day the job that everybody wishes, that they strive for that happiness in their position. And I do not take it for granted. I really understand that early on, something, a tragedy spoke to my heart, and I was able to early on find my niche and find that piece of happiness where you feel every single day that you go to work, you can't wait because it's one day, not one day is going to be the same. And then when you come home, you feel like, wow, I think today I really did make a great difference in the life of somebody else. And that there's no better feeling than that,
Oh, my lady. Hi. And she does. I'm going to say this probably, audience, she does. And Katie, your energy, you just exude that. You truly do. Whether it's, you can look at a photo of you, we can watch your social media where you are engaging in your element, right? Or just the results of seeing someone that you've helped or hearing from them. So, all right. So let's switch gears a little bit. The alarm clock goes off and your work or business or day begins. What does a day in the life look like for you?
Oh, great question. I feel like since we're still in the morning, I can give this to you.
All right, let's break it down.
Well, so currently I am staying in Fort Worth. I'm actually moving up here from Plano. So I wake up, let the dogs out, get my coffee going. And then while I'm having my coffee going, usually if there's dishes to be done, I get that done. So everything's clean when I come home. Make my bed. I like coming home from the day not having additional items to do. So if that means that, I wake up, like this morning, I woke up 30 minutes earlier because I cooked a lot last night and there was a lot of plans. So I woke up 30 minutes earlier to do the dishes, make the bed, and then hopped in, take a shower, check my emails, and I am out the door about 8:30 and then in the office or on a conference call. Right? And then depending on how the day goes, I am in office or in the community until about 5:30. And then I head to the gym, come home, cook a meal, and then I'm off to bed really early. Probably, I would say, I think my thing says time to go to bed at 9:45.
Atta girl.
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. So, a lot of times, especially I think looking at successful people, whatever that is framed like for you, right? Or maybe even sometimes because again, we are focused on women, so I say that a lot of times we look at her and we think, how does she get it done? How does she do all of that? And she's smiling on top of it. But, so hearing a little bit about your day, would you say, are you structured and scheduled? You talked about alarm clocks, but sometimes we're finding, you've heard these stories that they say, oh, the top successful people do this, this, and this before, 5 a.m. And it's like, is that real? Right. So are you structured? I know your role puts you in different pockets, right, throughout your day, but do you set hard goals for yourself? Do you have accountability in place? Share that with us.
Well, so what I find this funny just because a lot of my friends would say the same thing. So I love to be in control, but as a director of development and throwing charity events, there is a lot of things you need to learn about to let that control go and learn how to cope. Right? Instead of trying to control it in the way that you want it to go. However, that situation just was handled. Now you need to cope and then run in that direction. So I do like to have control over my morning. And I always think about it the night before. What does my morning look like? So I definitely envision things, and surprises are fine when it comes to my work. Like if something happens in the morning, like I'm a chameleon, really. So like I like to envision what my morning's going to look like. And then I get that done in the morning. By the time I get to work, I know that I have no control over what my day is going to look like. And then, so the guy that I'm currently dating, he had a tournament last night and I wasn't going to go, but he asked me to go. So I didn't get my workout in, but you got to be flexible. You can always get it in tomorrow. So when it comes to I like some control, but at the same time, learning how to adjust. I have found that is actually one of the largest strengths in a human, is learning how to adjust with what the world is going to throw at them throughout their day. And in the nonprofit industry, this happens often.
Well, that's a valuable skill for sure. And you're right. I would agree with how you phrase that is you learned, you're learning to adjust,
Yes.
especially for us that like the control.
Yes, ma'am. It's an ongoing process.
It is. And I love how, I've been taught not to use the word love all the time, especially in the professional sense. But I tell you what, I do love how you framed learning to cope versus maybe delegate or this, because sometimes
Right.
it's not delegating. You didn't delegate it. It just happened and you are coping.
Right. You're just making the adjustments. Well, and I think I actually learned how to do that when it came to like sports, right? So let's say you're up to bat and all of a sudden they switch out a pitcher on you, right? Because you're the bigger, you're the power hitter, and all of a sudden they throw in the left-handed pitcher, right? You need to learn how to adjust right then and there. You can't be like, you can't follow and say like, oh man, I wish they had it. No, here's what it is. Now, how do you adjust and cope?
There is such value. I don't remember who it was, but there was an interview I was paying attention to while I was, anyways, obviously not as thorough as I want to pretend I was, but something that she said, she was talking about about equating being able to have that leadership skill set and tying it back to sports. Okay. And so many people, especially women, depending on what age, bracket or whatever their supportive environment or non-supportive environment, didn't have exposure to that. So that is such a great tie-in to always encourage young women and women, whatever, but participate, because there's so many skills, it sounds like, that are tied to that direct correlation.
Right. And even if, like my older brother, he wasn't much of an athlete, but he was very artistic. And so like, even if you lead with a foot in a direction, you learn different ways like of coping, you learn different leadership, you learn from others as well. You're in the community, just finding your niche and sometimes that's easier said than done, because I've really talked to people and some of them, they just can't find why they were put here on this earth. And I'm like, you'll find it when you're supposed to.
Fair point. I want to share with our audience too. There's just so much. And I keep saying that with you because again, I admire you. Knowing you, as I say, knowing you, because I've watched you in action firsthand and seeing the mountains that you have moved to create remarkable and successful results. But again, like I said earlier, there are so many layers to Katie.
Thank you.
So thinking back, what are some of your most treasured accomplishments to date? And tell us why you treasure them so.
I think one of my top accomplishments, top two, I remember being able to say to my family, my friends, that I signed on with the Dallas Stars was a very large take on. And it was a very large accomplishment because I was working with all the NHL, AHL, and ECHL players, and then all the scouts all over the world. So the reason why I find that as an accomplishment is I'm dealing with people from literally all over the world, and I'm having to learn different cultures, especially being a woman in hockey. I had to learn where a lot of the countries were. I'm like, wait, we're flying him to where? So I'm like, well, let's not fly him. We have to make sure we're flying him to the correct airport. So I really learned a lot about geography. And I think it was just awesome that I was able at such a young age to take on that really big role. I was the youngest executive assistant in the NHL at that time. And everybody was like, how old are you? Because it is such a large role. But I was very proud of myself. Now, I didn't have very much time for others, but yeah. And I would also say my second largest accomplishment was being able to turn a tragedy into triumph. And that is the death that we had in my family was the loss of my older brother. And by sitting with myself and learning that pain can be put into something better and I can help others, that was the fact that I could even do that during that time was, honestly, beyond me. And I was just so proud of myself. And now I've been, working and leading with my heart, obviously a little bit of my brain, but leading with my heart now for over 6 years in this industry. Those two items in my life really were something that I was very proud of. And I kind of went outside my body and looked back at myself and I was like, wow, I can't believe you actually did that. And, give yourself a little pat on the back during those times.
Wow. It's breathtaking to hear you share that. And it's interesting because my next question to you is a perfect segue, but you may have answered it. I'm still going to ask it and let you elaborate. But what a divine light to help you guide your path. Wow. But the question was really, again, in alignment with that. And it's, where do you think the drive to serve others and support the community come from?
So growing up, I've always been around special needs children. I've always found that because I was always the varsity athlete, I was always the captain. I was always, first or second chair in the orchestra, aka I was always a leader. I always saw other people getting bullied in like grade school and high school. And I knew that because of who I was able to stop that, or I had an impact on that. Like, because people either looked up to me or, I'm 5'10". So people were like, oh, geez, don't mess with her. But I was able to use things that I have accomplished to help others. And that's when it kind of all started, was, seeing other people bully. And then I really got into the special needs realm. That was actually my about first 4 years of my nonprofit, was helping children with special needs as a director of development. Those two nonprofits are in Dallas. And I just found that being able to be a voice for somebody that can't speak for themselves and utilizing my platform and everything I've done, that is what I feel like I was brought here to do. That there are some people that they don't know how. Maybe it's just they don't want to because they're scared. Maybe they don't have the ability to. And the thing is I do. And so when I hear somebody's story, or I'm with I call them my special friends. I have a lot of best friends, and we'll go out to dinner, or I'll take them for a day. Like my younger one, I'll take her for a day or something like that. And they just bring me back to the reason why this world is so amazing. And working in this industry is such it's what wakes me up in the morning, because I have the ability to change one little piece of the world today.
Wow, you do it, girl. I tell you. Oh, so if we were to ask Katie, whether it be your personal life or your business life, what tips could you share with someone or the audience, which I think you do this every day anyways, for pursuing a dream or vision, or maybe achieving a goal? What tips would you share?
Number one, I know this is a big thing nowadays, is manifesting. Talk about it often. Talk about your goals often. Write them down often. Visualize them often. If you aren't talking about it, it will never happen. I know some people, they'll say like, my goal is to start my own nonprofit. But like, how is anybody supposed to know that you even want to do that if you're not saying it? When it comes to like goals and achievements, I definitely think you need to talk about it. Manifest it, write it down, put it in front of you. Think about it on the daily, start a Pinterest board or something where like things pop up and it gets your gears kind of going. But when it comes to actually achieving those goals, you have to practice. If you're about to go to an interview and this is a job you really want, you have to get in front of a mirror. So I modeled for 12 years, and I used to be so scared in front of the camera. But what I would do is I would get in front of the mirror and I always say I have so many face features, like I can make so many faces. And so like I get in front of the camera and like move around my face and see all the different ways, but I had to practice. And then now to today, some people will ask me to do a photo shoot, and I'm like, it just comes like, I think about what I used to do in the mirror and it makes me laugh. But like now it's, comes natural. When you're in an interview, you got to practice, go in front of the mirror, write down some items. What I actually find when I'm going to either speak in public or, hop on here with you on a podcast or to an interview, I actually love to drive and talk, because what that's doing is my body is doing one thing. And so my brain has a lot of activity going on. And so you're challenging it to still capture the thoughts that you want to say. So it's not a quiet environment. There's not, there's people, there's, things going on around you where you have to concentrate on what you want to talk about. So I actually find driving and speaking out loud to be like one of the best practices.
Well, that explains a lot of our calls.
I'm
like, Katie,
everything with me is very conversational.
I'm in the car. I'm in a tornado in the car.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, that tornado.
Like, Katie, where are you? Go home.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, that is the visualizing, the writing it down, the Pinterest boards, all of those things, saying it out loud. And you hit a ding, ding, ding for me, which I think I'm going to have to come back and talk with you offline later. But yes, so fantastic. Thinking about this, and it could be present day, it could be a long time ago, it might be something you've shared with us, but was there ever a specific point in time, event, or key situation in your professional life that forced you to take a monumental shift? And what was the result, positive or painful? How did that situation help you grow?
When my brain started to kind of say, the sports industry wasn't for me, that was a pivotal point. I grew up asking my dad. So my father never told me what he made, okay? My father is a VP and general manager of a security company. And so I grew up at a very young age going, Daddy, how much do you make? And my dad would say, Katie, you don't ask people that question. And I'm like, yeah. Okay, but is it over, a certain amount, and he would say, yes, it's over a certain amount. And I'm like, okay, I want to make as much as my dad, because look at all that we can provide if you make that much, Mm-hmm. So I was like putting two and two together when it came to the business world. And when I was in the sports industry, I started looking at, jobs that were above mine as females as well, right? It's definitely a thing, because I can't be a scout. I mean, I guess you could. You never, just because you're a female doesn't mean that you should ever, not apply. But like, I can't be the coach of the men's hockey team, right? That's just, or the GM. That's very unheard of. And so I was like, okay, where do I see myself? Where do I envision myself in 10 years? And I'm like, oh, I want to make more money than this. And so I'm like, okay. So that was kind of a pivotal point, was where I wanted to see what the ceiling was. And is there a ceiling? And I really saw in the sports industry, and I'm not going to name anybody's names and throw them out there, but I had multiple conversations with some pretty big people in the office. And, there is a ceiling, 100% a ceiling. And I didn't like that. And so I was like, okay, so there's going to be a point where I worked, just kind of like softball, right? You work your buttons off and you're at practice at 6 a.m., you're studying until, 11 p.m., and you're really working it for what, though, after you get out of college. So I was like, I can't have that happen to me again, because that kind of broke my heart a little bit. And so I was like, I need to do something where I'm investing into my career continuously, and something where I don't feel as though there's a ceiling or a stopping point. And when I decided that the sports industry wasn't necessarily for me due to the ceiling, I was looking for a conversion, like, where was I going to go? And then unfortunately, I know this is sad, but unfortunately, a week later, my brother passed away. So I'm always about things happen for a reason. And I was really, that week before the passing, my father has always been my guider in the business realm. He's always given the best advice. He's always my toughest critic, other than myself. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, I don't know what I want to do. I know I don't want to do A, B, C, D, but I don't know what else is out there. And a week later, my brother passed. And then I met the man that got me into the nonprofit sector. And he was like, everything you've done in the sports industry is exactly like an event coordinator. And I was like, oh, throwing a whole bunch of events for a living, meeting people, getting to know everybody's story, that 100% is me.
Wow, there's so many points within what you've shared with us, which I would say is sage advice. All individual strong points. Do your research, ask questions, ask those mentors and trusted confidants. And wow, Katie, so super cool. Okay, my lady, we're going to take a quick break and hear from this episode's sponsor, and we'll be right back.
Is it time to sell your home? Build that dream home? Right-sized? Or are you ready to invest in real estate? Couture Real Estate Firm is a local female-owned independent brokerage laser-focused on services exclusively tailored to our clients' real estate goals. With our forward-thinking business model, we have a fully mobile, luxury real estate concept allowing convenience, flexibility, efficiency for our clients in style. Amber Weitzer, broker-owner of Couture Real Estate Firm, has over 20 years in the real estate industry and is a second-generation broker. She provides straightforward business practices, integrity, and intelligence with a commitment to a high-touch, consistent customer service experience. We take great pride in our reputation as a strong, referral-based brokerage. Discretion, tenacity, respect, and proactive business practices have earned Couture Real Estate Firm a loyal, repeat client business with a trusted global partner network. We strive for ultimate client satisfaction with successful results, doing it with class, consciousness, and a little avant-garde. In addition to serving our clients and vendor partners, we are extremely honored to be actively engaged in supporting the communities we serve by promoting small businesses, schools, and nonprofits. Real estate is direct sales business at its core, and we are highly trained sales professionals with the Mike Ferry organization, adding dimension to the industry. Passionate about customer service, dedicated to client satisfaction, and driven to achieve successful results for our clients. Call Couture Real Estate Firm today at 817-233-7239 to discuss your real estate goals.
And we're back. Okay, Katie, all such amazing things that you are sharing with us and your story and the inspiration and just hearing it in your voice, the energy. I think so many times we look to silhouettes just like yourself and we think, okay, so she's got all this going on. She's doing all this. She's taking on the challenges and she's learning to cope. Right? So if you were to think about maybe different things in your life that you look to as far as maybe a favorite resource or book or author or influence or mentor, is there anything that you can share with us as a book title or, anything?
Well, so I think my generation is a little bit of the podcasts. Back in the day, my favorite book was A Million Little Pieces. And let me just be real with you. The reason was because I was shocked that the book was so brash, that somebody was so vulgar and brash, but realistic. And it has to do with like mental state and things of that nature. So it is a good read, but if you're sensitive to the vulgarity and things of that nature, that's not a very good read. But I do love listening to podcasts, like positive podcasts, because I honestly, and I do this every morning when I'm in the shower, by the way, I kind of forgot that in my daily routine, but sometimes we wake up and maybe we're down on ourselves from the day before, maybe something didn't turn out the way that we wanted it to, or we allowed somebody else's emotions, we took them on as an empath, and allowed somebody to affect our emotions. So I really like to start my day with just positive. I don't do reinforcements like I am pretty, I am smart, I listen to the motivation of today is your day. You are going to take on this day and you're going to take on this day with a positive light. You're going to let yesterday go and you're going to let tomorrow happen. And so like a lot of like, when it boils down to it, it's really talking about a lot of control. It's saying today is what it is. You woke up, the sun is shining, and you are going to start this day with a positive attitude and take on anything and everything that comes into you. So what I actually do is I go on YouTube, and on my YouTube, there's different ones that pop up in the morning because this is, I do it every day. So I just click on the next best motivational video. And I don't watch the video, I just listen to it as I'm, and it kind of sits with me and helps me kind of get through my morning a little faster rather than sitting with my own thoughts of yesterday.
So many people too might start out the day, listening or doing something, but the reason and what you just wrapped up with is amazing. because you're moving on, you're starting fresh, and you're not, because that's what we would do. We would be in our routine getting ready, and you're just like, oh, yesterday, or oh, girl, that is awesome. Okay. All right, Katie, in respecting your schedule, I'm watching the time here. So it has been such a pleasure visiting with you today and having you here with us and allowing me to share the amazing Katie with our audience. Just such a pleasure. And as we wrap up, keeping the promise to share intentional inspiration, would you have one piece of key go-to advice to share with our audience?
I live by the motto that live every day to make this world a little better than you found it. And that could just be holding the door open for somebody else today. And that is exactly what I try to do every day, whether it be small or large. Just make sure that you've impacted somebody in a positive way.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. All right, my lady, the stage is yours now. Where can our audience go to find and or connect with you on your socials or support you in your continued success if you would like to share anything?
Thank you. I actually am very big into social media. So adding me on Facebook is the best way. I like to share a little bit about my personal life on Facebook. We share a lot of our charity events on Facebook. I share a lot of success stories. You get to see a lot of, like we talked about, my videos. And so with some of my special friends, I think Facebook is probably the best place to go. And that's just by typing in my name, Katie Purcell.
All right, my lady, and we'll be sure and share that in the resource section for the audience. So, all right, Katie, you are a true rock star in every sense of the word. Thank you once again for sharing your silhouette of success with us. Again, you are such a vibrant inspiration, and thank you for sharing yourself.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Silhouettes of Success podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out and join us for all the new episodes. We are here for you and with you. We encourage you to share this podcast on all your socials and pass on the light to help illuminate another silhouette of success. Amber would love to hear from you, and you can find her on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or head over to amberweitzer.com. Let's connect. Help us all shine and leave us a review too. To find out the latest ways to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, and gain actionable insights, subscribe at amberweitzer.com. We are honored, humbled, and full of joy that you've tuned in. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, right here with us. This is the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success.